You're listening to Engage, the podcast for Delta pilots.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Engage podcast. I am not your normal host. My name is Chris Hughes, and I am the chair for the Delta MEC's Communication Committee. As I'm sure many of you will have heard by the time this episode airs, Jason Depew, our host for the Engage podcast, has tragically passed away. Jason was a beloved husband and father, a dedicated professional, and someone who will be deeply missed by everyone who knew him. Our hearts go out to his friends and family. As we get rolling here, I'd just like to take a moment to welcome Scott Bowles and John Doherty from ALPA's Retirement and Insurance Committee during what is always a really busy time of year for them, Open Enrollment. It began on the 5th and it'll run through November 20th, and this episode will go out a little bit later than we normally have it scheduled for, but given the circumstances, we hope everyone has some patience and understanding. I would also encourage you to go back and listen to episode 38 for the GVUL and episode 39 that details the open enrollment from 2023, which is where we saw most of the major changes to our healthcare plans. So this episode is planned to be just a recap of those changes for 2025 and also a little bit of information on the GVUL and some shameless plugs by our R&I guys. So take it away, guys.
Well, thank you, Chris. And we echo the condolences to the Depew family and the loss of Jason. As Chris intimated, the podcast we recorded about a year ago, episode 38 on the GVUL, and episode 39, you should see a hyperlink in the text for this podcast, contained most of the changes that were more significant from our contract that was approved in 2023. So today we'll just touch on a few of the highlight differences and a couple of plugs and reminders that will ease your election of 2025 benefit coverage.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, guys. The first question I really have, tell me about the GVUL. I know we've got episode 38 on it and something that we've talked about many times, but prior to the episode, as we were doing our preparation, you mentioned that our take rate for the GVUL was actually not as high as we had hoped. So what does that look like right now?
Correct. Well, for 2024, so a year ago, when the GVUL was first available to be elected as your life insurance coverage in lieu of the term insurance, we only had about 7,400 or roughly 40% of the Delta pilots that elected that. And to give you an idea of what was missed for 2024, had we all elected GVUL life insurance coverage, collectively we would have saved about $30 million in imputed income taxes. And unfortunately, a lot of that money was left on the table. So the good news is the GVUL is annually electable. So if you missed it last year, we would encourage you to consider signing up for it this year. And just a reminder, as you'll find on episode 38 podcast, it is a two-step process. You will elect the GVUL coverage during open enrollment, and at the end of open enrollment, you will then receive an email from MetLife to finish the second step of the GVUL enrollment, which will also include things like electing your beneficiary. At the end of the day, the GVUL insurance coverage has no negatives. It will save every Delta pilot money on imputed income taxes. It is the same death benefit, just a more favorable tax treatment from the way the IRS does the imputed income charts.
Yeah, that's great information. And I will raise my hand and say that I am one of the pilots that did not elect to involve myself with the GVUL last year, and I will be certainly looking at it this year and taking part in it. So thanks for the information. Big question in everyone's minds, I think, is what kind of price changes are we looking at for 2025?
Yeah, for 2025, as has been the case for most years, healthcare is getting more expensive. So next year, though, for a single person, it's about $2 to $5 a month in premium increases, and for family coverage, it's anywhere between $4 and $15 a month. Of course, our Delta Pilot High Deductible Healthcare Plan is frozen in time in 2023. So this year is the first time that there is a difference between the Gold HSA and the Delta Pilot High Deductible Healthcare Plan with the Prudent RX. Prudent RX is in the Gold HSA. It is not in the contractual Delta Pilot High Deductible Plan.
Awesome. That's good information. So it really sounds like there's not a huge price change in the premiums for most of these plans, and it's not something that pilots are really going to feel, hitting their bank account too bad. So that's good news. And we received some questions here. One that we received a couple of was about spousal subsidies and healthcare options that are available for retirees.
Yeah, Chris. So a common misnomer is that there is no retiree health care coverage. There always has been retiree health care coverage. The issue really is how much you have to pay for it. Once you hit Medicare eligibility age, 65 currently, all healthcare options in with Delta Airlines. But if you retire early between 60 and 65, the pilot has always, or at least recently, always had a subsidy, and we were able to increase that in the last contract. So currently, the pilot and all eligible dependents from 60 to 65, if they retire early, pay 45% of the healthcare rates for the Delta pilot medical plan, which currently is about $550 a person. Actually went down this year. New to the last contract was we also included a subsidy for spouses. So even pilots that have younger spouses, they retire at normal 65, a normal retirement, and have a younger spouse. The spouse is now eligible for that same subsidy from 60 until 65, that $550 a month. So if you exactly have a mythical 5-year younger spouse, you're saving about $50,000 with this new subsidy.
Wow, that's a pretty notable dollar amount to be saving, especially as you approach retirement. So it's a big benefit. Good information. So curious, any changes to dental or vision coverage?
Yeah, dental and vision. Dental coverage has a few new things this year. If you elect the basic coverage, there's now some x-rays that are now covered. As far as the comprehensive coverage, they now cover some bone grafts. But also with the new contract that was last year was a big deal, was that you can select the DPMP dental without being on the DPMP medical plan. And for most pilots, that is the cheapest, most effective insurance, and it has pretty good coverage.
Excellent.
As far as vision goes, vision now allows a frame every year instead of every 2 years. So, of course, that probably will drive the cost up a little bit. I think vision premiums are up about a buck a month.
Okay. Well, as someone who wears glasses, I will be taking advantage of that. It seems like I go through about 1 or 2 pair a year anyway, leaving them on airplanes. It's a frequent habit of mine. So if you see a glasses case with the name Chris Hughes and a phone number on it, please call that number. I promise it's not a scam. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I just want my glasses back. Thanks for that, John. So as we look at TRICARE and the HSAs, are you seeing any changes to those?
No changes per se. Just a reminder for anyone that is TRICARE eligible that as a participant in a TRICARE medical coverage, you are not eligible for a health savings account. So if you are TRICARE eligible and you opt not to have that medical coverage, then you would have the ability to choose an HSA eligible healthcare plan. What we find is most folks on TRICARE stay with that level of coverage because that is a pretty impressive insurance policy overall, and it frequently outweighs the benefits of the health savings account. As far as the health savings accounts themselves, separate from TRICARE, no changes per se this year. Just a reminder that to be eligible for the Delta Health rewards within those HSA plans, you need to complete 2 of the 3 required items, and at least for the pilots, most of them will take advantage of their medical, which is a part of your requirement for your job. And then the second one is completing the real age test on the ShareCare app. And a reminder, if you do have a spouse, the spouse will also have to download the ShareCare app and complete the real age test as well. And then as for family coverage, that's up to $2,400 in Delta Health rewards that'll go towards your HSA limit.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's something that I feel like we hear about, but a lot of pilots don't really seem to participate in, and it seems like a really kind of low-hanging fruit type of situation where just completing 1 or 2 things and you get some money in your HSA for it.
Correct. And you may recall years ago, this was a relatively complicated process. You had to jump through a lot of hoops, and Delta's done a nice job streamlining that. So these couple of actions that you have to take are fairly short on time. Just to give you an idea of what we have left on the table in the past, just a couple of years ago, we left about $34 million on the table, not collecting all of the eligible health savings account, or rather Delta Health rewards into the health savings account. So it's a lot of money to leave on the table.
Wow, absolutely. John, are we seeing any big changes across all the healthcare plans that are notable, or anything like that that's worth mentioning that you're seeing?
Yeah, I mentioned Prudent RX a little earlier. That was only available in the copay plan last year, and that applies to these specialty drugs. If you're on a specialty drug, chances are you know it. It's not like run down to the local pharmacy and pick up my high cholesterol medicine or something like that. These are injectables and stuff like that, special handling drugs. It is a savings to the company, and we pay a percentage of the healthcare costs, so that's a potential savings to the pilots. But it is that program is expanding to the gold and the silver HSA. As far as the contractual plan, it is frozen in time in 2023. We did not elect to include that or the company and ALPA have not negotiated, I should say, to include that in the plan. So that is the difference in that $1 premium difference. So if you like how you are currently getting your specialty meds and you're currently on the gold or the DP HDHP, next year it will only be the current system will only be on the Delta Pilot high deductible plan. If you want to entertain the Prudent RX solution, then you will have to either be on the gold or the silver HSA. And if you want more information than just the high level overview that's in some of these summaries, if you go into the healthcare handbook and start looking on the account-based healthcare handbook and start looking on page 150, it has the detailed information of what Prudent RX is and what it isn't.
Excellent. Where can that handbook be found?
It is on DeltaNet in the Open Enrollment documents on DeltaNet. So just make sure you're in the right handbook. There's one for the Delta Pilot Medical Plan, there's one for the Delta Pilot High Deductible Plan, and then there's one for all the other account-based healthcare plans. There is a section in there also for the copay. If you're so desired on the copay, there's a section on Prudent RX and the copay. There's a little bit different handling on how the deductibles work on the copay versus the HSAs, obviously. But if you are on specialty meds, it's worth looking at.
Sure, excellent information. So, any parting thoughts? Anything to add before we part ways today?
Well, I would add a repeat shameless plug on the GVUL insurance. If you have not previously looked at it, I would encourage you to at least check it out. And remember the numbers that were left on the table last year. It's a no-risk option for us to pursue. And then one other thing that we've seen frequent events, especially with a lot of the ALPA volunteers, and that is the ALPA National Offered Accident and Critical Illness Insurance. And we'll just make another shameless plug for that. We've had quite a few folks take advantage of that level of coverage, especially if you have children. That would be a really good plan for you to consider, as they are prone to have a chance to cash in on that more often than not. So to look at those details, they are administered through ALPA National, not through your Delta ALPA folks. Just go to the ALPA National page on member insurance and look for the accident and critical illness insurance. And if you are under 50, those plans are actually more than free. There's a wellness benefit, and they will actually pay you more than the premiums. Yes, it's more than free. They'll pay you more than the premiums based on that wellness benefit. So no reason not to take advantage of those.
No, that's actually a great point, and I'm someone who takes advantage of the accident and critical illness plan as well. And just for instance, my daughter unfortunately broke her arm in gymnastics a few months ago. They send us a check, fill out the forms. It's pretty quick and easy. It's intuitive. They send us a check, and it covered all the healthcare premiums that we had to pay for going to the emergency room and everything else. So very, very well worth it.
Right. Essentially, it's insurance for the high deductible healthcare plans, but it can be very attractive, especially if you have kids, as you mentioned. And one other mention just before we go, we have 2 full-time benefit specialists here in the Delta ALPA offices, so either Santia Green or Lewis Parks. If you need to do a deep dive into what medical plan may be best for you or any issues you might be having with your medical coverage or anything else that falls into the retirement or insurance area, give them a call, or you can ask to speak to one of the pilot volunteers, and we'll do our best to handle whatever needs you may have. One comment I'd make is we do not have any feedback, good or bad, on the Prudent RX program that this year has been available on the copay plan, and next year will be available on the gold and silver HSA plans. So if you've had an experience, good, bad, or indifferent, with the Prudent RX program, we'd appreciate it if you'd give us a call, send us an email, or shoot us a dart so we can at least have a little more information for those that are going to come after you.
No, that's good info. I mean, as we all know, part of the process with ALPA is, we require input from the pilots on stuff, so we know what's working, what's not, and where we need to see changes. So great info and good information for all the pilots as well. Thank you. All right, well, that's all we have for now on this episode. I really appreciate everyone listening in. Scott, John, thank you so much for being here. I know it's really busy right now in the office. You're getting a lot of phone calls from pilots asking about healthcare, open enrollment, a lot of questions, so appreciate you taking the time to come talk with us. Big takeaways, I think, from this episode. Again, not to sound like a broken record, but want to shamelessly plug in episode 38 for the GVUL, episode 39 for the open enrollment information for the current healthcare year 2024. So go back, give those a listen, and obviously any new changes that are going to be seen in 2025 we'll have in this episode here. Appreciate everyone's time, and thanks for listening. Hold your loved ones close, and we'll be back soon with another episode of Engage.
You're listening to Engage, the podcast for Delta pilots. Follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcast platform, and receive notifications when a new episode is available.